The dream is, in a certain way, a sensory impression in the state of sleep. Paraphrased from Aristotle on dreams. Tonight, we take a significant leap back in time, far preceding the psychoanalytic couches of Vienna or the archetypal explorations of Zurich. We travel to ancient Greece, specifically to the mind of one of its most formidable thinkers, Aristotle. In an era where dreams were commonly interpreted as divine messages, omens from the gods, or visitations from spirits, Aristotle offered a strikingly different, decidedly naturalistic perspective. He sought explanations not in the supernatural realm, but within the workings of the human organism itself, in the interplay of sensation, physiology, and the peculiar state of sleep. His treatises on dreams and on divination and sleep, part of his collection known as the Parva Naturalia, short works on nature, laid some of the earliest philosophical groundwork for a psychological, even biological study of dreaming. What you are about to discover in Aristotle's pragmatic view might challenge the pervasive modern assumption that every fleeting nocturnal image must hold profound symbolic depth or be a direct communication from the hidden self. He invites us to consider a more grounded, yet still fascinating origin for much of our dream life. Aristotle's core idea, revolutionary for its time, was that dreams primarily originate from the lingering effects of sensory experiences encountered during waking life. He wasn't suggesting that we are actively perceiving the external world while asleep in the same way we do when awake. Instead, he focused on the persistence of sensory impressions after the initial stimulus is gone, and how these faint echoes behave differently during the state of sleep. He used analogies like the ripples continuing in water after a stone is thrown, or the way movement can still be perceived after one stops spinning. Similarly, he argued, the sensory organs, having been stimulated during the day, retain residual movements or impressions. These lingering phantasms, as he sometimes referred to these mental images derived from sensation, are normally overshadowed by the constant influx of stronger, real-time sensory data when we are awake. Our rational mind is active, processing, judging, and filtering these faint echoes. However, during sleep, the situation changes dramatically. The primary sensory organs become largely inactive regarding external input. The common sense faculty, which integrates sensory data in waking life, is also partially dormant, as is the higher rational faculty. This creates a state of relative quiet within the perceptual system. In this quietude, those faint residual sensory movements, the lingering ripples from daytime experiences, become proportionally stronger and more noticeable. They are no longer drowned out. Imagine being in a noisy room versus a silent one. Even a faint whisper becomes audible in the silence. Similarly, the subtle after effects of seeing a bright light, hearing a loud noise, tasting strong food, or even feeling a strong emotion, which Aristotle linked to bodily sensations, can persist and resurface during sleep, forming the raw material of dream imagery. This concept of sensory residue provides a naturalistic explanation for why dream content often seems related to daytime events. If you spent the day working intensely on a visual project, residual images might linger and reappear in distorted forms in your dreams. If you experienced a strong emotional upset, the lingering physiological sensations associated with that emotion might trigger related dream themes. Aristotle gave concrete examples: a slight feeling of warmth on a limb during sleep, perhaps due to blankets, might be amplified and distorted into a dream of walking through fire. A faint sound from outside, too quiet to wake you, might be incorporated and transformed into a dream about thunder or a crowd. A gentle pressure on the body could become a dream of being held, or conversely, being attacked, depending on other internal factors. The key is that the stimulus is real, albeit faint or residual, but its perception and interpretation are altered and often magnified due to the unique conditions of sleep, where the critical faculties are less active and internal movements hold greater sway. This leads us to consider our own experiences. How often do you notice clear links between your activities, sensory inputs, or emotional states during the day and the specific content of your dreams that night? Does a particularly stressful day lead to anxious dreams? Does watching a specific film influence the characters or settings in your nocturnal narratives? Reflecting on these connections might reveal how closely your own dream life aligns, at least in part, with Aristotle's ancient observation about the persistence of sensory impressions. But Aristotle didn't limit his explanation solely to the lingering effects of external sensations or daytime experiences. He also turned his observational gaze inward, connecting dream content directly to the internal physiological processes occurring within the sleeping body. This marks a significant step towards a psychobiological understanding of dreams. He recognized that the body is never truly static. Even during sleep, processes like digestion, circulation, respiration, and subtle changes in temperature or internal pressure continue. Just as faint external stimuli can be amplified in sleep, so too can these faint internal bodily sensations. Aristotle suggested that minor disturbances or changes within the body, unnoticed during the bustle of waking life, could generate significant and often distorted dream images. For instance, slight indigestion or gastric discomfort might translate into dreams involving unpleasant tastes, feelings of suffocation, or encounters with monstrous figures related to the gut. A subtle increase in body heat, perhaps the very beginning of a fever, might generate dreams of fire, summer heat, or intense conflict. The movement of fluids or gases within the body could potentially be perceived in sleep as dreams of flowing water, wind, or even flying. Essentially, the sleeping mind perceives these internal organic sensations, but lacking the usual context and rational interpretation of the waking state. It weaves them into the fabric of the dream, often in symbolic or exaggerated forms. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of this physiological perspective was Aristotle's suggestion that dreams, by amplifying these subtle internal cues, might occasionally provide early warnings of incipient illness. He reasoned that the very first faint stirrings of a disease process within an organ might create specific internal sensations. While too weak to be noticed consciously when awake and distracted, these subtle pathological signals could become prominent enough during the quiet of sleep to generate corresponding dream images. Thus, someone in the very early stages of a fever might repeatedly dream of fire before consciously feeling ill. Someone with an emerging issue in a specific organ might have recurring dreams localized to that area or involving symbolic representations of distress related to it. It is crucial to understand Aristotle's position here. He was not claiming dreams were divine prophetic warnings of illness sent from external sources. Rather, he was proposing a purely naturalistic mechanism, the heightened sensitivity during sleep to subtle, already existing physiological changes within the dreamer's own body. The dream doesn't cause the illness, nor does it magically foresee it in a supernatural way. It simply reflects in a distorted and amplified manner the very earliest physical signs of that illness. Have you ever noticed correlations between your physical well-being and your dream content? Have dreams involving bodily discomfort or specific physical themes sometimes preceded the conscious awareness of a minor illness or physical state? Could those strange bodily sensations experienced within a dream, feelings of heaviness, lightness, pain, pressure, or transformation, sometimes be echoes, however distorted, of your actual physiological condition offering clues that your waking mind might overlook? Given this naturalistic framework, which grounded dreams firmly in sensory experience and bodily processes, what did Aristotle make of the widespread belief in his time, and indeed throughout history, that dreams could be prophetic, offering glimpses into the future or conveying divine messages? Here, Aristotle adopted a stance of profound, reasoned skepticism, directly challenging the prevailing supernatural interpretations. While acknowledging that people did report dreams that seemed to come true, he systematically dismantled the arguments for their divine origin and offered alternative, natural explanations. He firmly rejected the idea that dreams were sent by the gods. His reasoning was partly logical. If gods wanted to send messages, why send them through the confusing medium of dreams, and why predominantly to ordinary, intellectually unremarkable people rather than the wisest individuals? It seemed an inefficient and illogical method for divine communication. Instead, he attributed apparently prophetic dreams to several other factors. Firstly, coincidence or chance, touche, plays a significant role. Countless dreams occur every night across the population. Statistically, it is inevitable that some dream content will, purely by chance, happen to coincide with later events. We tend to remember the striking hits and forget the vastly more numerous misses, leading to a biased perception of dream accuracy. Secondly, Aristotle pointed to the dreamer's own subtle observations and deductions. A person might unconsciously pick up on subtle cues in their waking environment or interactions, perhaps noticing very slight changes in a friend's health or mood, or sensing underlying tensions in a social situation. These subliminal perceptions, not fully processed by the conscious mind, could then surface in dream imagery. If the foreseen event later occurs, e.g., the friend becomes ill, the social tension erupts. The dream appears prophetic, but its origin lies in the dreamer's own keen, albeit unconscious, observations, not external foresight. Thirdly, he considered the possibility of dreams acting as causal agents themselves, leading to a form of self-fulfilling prophecy. A dream might instill a certain expectation or influence the dreamer's mood or behavior in a way that inadvertently helps bring about the dreamed-of event. For example, dreaming of success might boost confidence, leading to actions that increase the likelihood of success. Conversely, an anxiety dream might lead to hesitant behavior that contributes to failure. Fourthly, as discussed earlier, dreams seeming to predict illness are likely based on the amplification of early physiological signals, a natural process, not a supernatural warning. Finally, Aristotle understood the power of human interpretation. People actively seek meaning and patterns. After an event occurs, it's easy to look back at a vague or ambiguous dream and interpret it retrospectively as having predicted the event, even if the connection is tenuous. The meaning is often imposed after the fact, driven by our innate desire to find order and significance. Did Aristotle completely dismiss any possibility of dreams holding significance beyond mere physiological echo or chance? Not entirely, but his allowance was minimal and still naturalistic. He acknowledged that some dreams, particularly those experienced by highly sensitive or melancholic individuals, in the ancient sense of the term, might occasionally capture something beyond the ordinary, perhaps due to a heightened psychic sensitivity during sleep. He even used the term daimonic to describe dreams, suggesting they relate to the realm of daemons, intermediary spirits or natural forces, rather than being divine or directly God-sent. This acknowledged a level of mystery beyond simple sensation, but still kept it within the broader order of nature, distinct from direct intervention by Olympian gods. His overwhelming emphasis, however, remained on natural causes and coincidence as sufficient explanations for most seemingly prophetic or meaningful dream experiences. This raises a challenging question for us today, living in an age saturated with both scientific skepticism and a renewed interest in subjective meaning. How do you personally navigate the tension between seeking significance in your dreams and acknowledging the possibility, as Aristotle emphasized, that many might simply be the random play of a sleeping mind processing sensory fragments and bodily noise? Where do you draw the line between meaningful message and mental static? In conclusion, Aristotle took a remarkably bold and forward-thinking step by attempting to systematically remove the study of dreams from the exclusive domain of priests, oracles, and supernatural belief, placing it instead within the realm of natural philosophy and psychology. His work represents one of the earliest known efforts to understand dreaming as a natural function of the human organism, tied intrinsically to our sensory experiences and physiological states. He reminds us, in stark contrast to many later theories that emphasize profound unconscious depths or symbolic messages in every dream, that not every fleeting image or bizarre narrative fragment experienced during the night necessarily carries deep psychological weight or requires complex interpretation. Some dreams might indeed be relatively simple echoes of the day, transient responses to a cold draft or indigestion, or mere coincidences. The core revelation from Aristotle's perspective is this: a significant portion of our dream life can potentially be understood, at least partially, through the straightforward lens of our biology and the lingering resonance of our sensory engagement with the world. He provides a crucial grounding, a counterpoint to interpretations that might overread meaning into every nocturnal flicker. This Aristotelian perspective encourages a degree of critical thinking and acknowledges the physical basis of our mental lives, even during sleep. We frequently explore diverse perspectives on the mind, from ancient philosophy to modern science. If considering these different viewpoints, like Aristotle's naturalistic take on dreams, intrigues you, do subscribe to continue these explorations with us. We're particularly interested in your reaction to Aristotle. Does his focus on sensation and physiology resonate with your own dream experiences, or do you find it misses something essential? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Finally, Aristotle leaves us with a compelling question to ponder. Does acknowledging the potentially mundane, physiological, or sensory-driven nature of some dreams necessarily diminish the power, mystery, or psychological significance of those dreams that do feel profoundly meaningful or transformative? Or does recognizing the ordinary ground allow the extraordinary to stand out even more clearly when it genuinely appears? Perhaps understanding the natural foundation of dreams, as Aristotle urged, provides a necessary balance in our ongoing quest to comprehend the rich and varied landscape of the sleeping mind.